Welcome everyone to another Leah Reviews. I am your host Leah, and this time my review, I'm going to be reviewing the Friends sitcom. Yes, the ever so popular Friends sitcom that aired from I think 1990 4 to 2004, 10 years. I want to give my thoughts about this show. I know a lot of people recommend this show. So I decided to watch this in 2020 when everyone was in the houses. I'm just gonna go over like what I enjoyed about the show, like both the pros and the cons, because there's no such thing as a perfect show. We could all agree about that. So I'm gonna start with like the cons. So I would say the cons of this show is that um people have mentioned that this show is kind of like they kind of sugarcoat, what actual New York, New York City is about. Which I take their word for it because I never lived in New York, so I wouldn't really know. So in a way, one of the cons of this show is that lots of people have said it's kind of like a vanilla, and they sugarcoated what actual New York New York City life is. So I'll take their word for it. I would say another con of this show is like, I would say the Ross and Rachel, like the way they handled that. Don't get me wrong, like I can see the appeal of the Ross and Rachel, relationship, but at the same time, if you actually analyze it very like closely and the way they behave, you could clearly see they're very toxic, a very, very toxic relationship. Um and it makes me like, oh yeah, I don't want a relationship like that. I'm sorry. So I think, the Ross and Rachel, like I think they kind of got them together little too soon. And then they're like, oh, they're together now. And then they decide, oh yeah, let's break them up. And then we have like this constant battle between like, are they going to get back together or no? And then they literally save it all the way to the final episode. And I think, when you look at it realistically, toxic relationships will never last if you go back and forth. And I get it, this is a sitcom, so it can be very unrealistic, but if you kind of look at, sure, Ross and Rachel do evolve as people throughout the series, but they never really addressed the elephant in the room, if you know what I mean, about why their relationship was so toxic. So you know, they don't really address that, which is a little concerning because you do wonder, are they gonna work this time around? Because to me, I feel like they need to have that conversation first to address the elephant in the room of, why their relationship did not work out the first time around. Um, so I think it's like it's really neat, that they give us the answer in the final episode, but at the same time, it's like we never really hear them discuss about what was so toxic about the relationship, and I feel like we were kind of robbed of that, in my opinion. Um, I would say another con is that they kind of the three male leads, Ross, Joey, and Chandler, they kind of say some misogynistic stuff, which wouldn't really fly in today's world because remember this came out in like early or like almost mid 90s to like 2000s. So it is like you could say some of the stuff they say is a little misogynistic, I would say. So keep that in mind. Um so yeah. I would say I'm gonna go into pros now. I would say the pros of this like sitcom is that they actually make six characters that are like very different in personality, where even though they're very different in personality, they all work together as an ensemble cast. And We have Rachel, who could be, she's a rich girl, learning to be independent for herself, and then becoming like a mother later on in the series. And then we have Monica, who's like the mother hen of the group, always wanted to make sure everyone is okay, which I relate to Monica. A lot of my friends call me the mother hen because I always tend to check up on everyone. It's kind of in my nature as a person. But at the same time, Monica is like people pleasing, which has been pointed out in the show a lot. And then we have Phoebe, she's like a wild card type of person. Like she has like this quirky charm that like even though from like the outsider's perspective, you would be like, why would these five people be friends with Phoebe? But that's just what makes her unique, Phoebe just has this unique charm, quirky charm about her, that makes her very unique to this ensemble cast. And then we have, obviously Ross, who is like Monica's brother. Um, he tends to he obviously has like a lot of trust issues. He there are times where he can be overly dramatic and always overly critical of himself. But there are people who can relate to him, where especially if you're like the golden child, you kind of have they kind of put this expectation on you to be perfect. And if Ross makes like a mistake, he's like overly critical on himself. And he has like this weird I don't know if I would call it an obsession, but he has this weird obsession of being judged by other people. Like I think um one of the most critical ones that he's is that when he gets divorced for the third time, he thinks that like, oh, I won't be able to find another woman because, they might reject me if they find out I've been like divorced three times. And obviously that's been a gag in the show, but he is like Ross really cares about the way he's presenting himself. Like he thinks people are going to judge if he has like three like if since he was like divorced three times. So I get where that's coming from, but it is like problematic and if anything. Then we have Chandler, obviously who's like my favorite character from the ensemble cast because he is very sarcastic. And he always makes a lot of jokes. And Matthew Perry, like I couldn't see anyone else like playing Chandler. Like Chandler just has this really like sarcasm that just works for the character. And then of course we have like Joey who obviously is trying to make a break for himself in the acting industry. Obviously that's a tough thing, and we see Joey's like struggle and he doesn't get his big break until like Days of Our Lives, in the Friends universe, obviously. And we see him like and then he ends up getting fired from Days of Our Lives, and then he has to deal with like, oh, I'm back in square one again. So I love how these characters really culminate together, and I think they do such a great job. Um, if anything. I would say another pro would be that they really showcase different types of relationships in this show. A lot of people don't realize, like, I don't think a lot of people realize that even though Ross and Rachel were like endgame, like I think you could clearly see that this is like an interesting representation of a toxic relationship where there's like they just don't communicate with each other. And then meanwhile with Chandler and Monica, they're like the opposite of that, and they're like showing what an actual healthy relationship is. And then I think with Joey and Phoebe, I think what they show with them is well, I would say with all of them, that they're showing a platonic relationship with men and women. Because, media back in the day, they clearly have like said that like men and women can't be friends because, of the physical attraction or like, opposite sex attraction, right? But Friends, this sitcom was really groundbreaking in showcasing like men and women can be friends. And sometimes that can lead into like, everlasting love. Obviously they didn't want to put all of them, like pair up each of them, because otherwise it wouldn't be realistic, which is fair. Because I know a lot of people like I know there's a lot of fans really wanted Joey and Phoebe to end up together, but I think they wanted to showcase actual genuine platonic relationship between a man and a woman. So I think they did such a great job representing that. And I think they also do that also with like um with pregnancy. Obviously they show like three different representations. We see with Phoebe she actually was doing a genuinely good thing for her like her younger half brother and his wife, who she basically acts as their surrogate. So she carries her half brother's like children, his half brother and his wife's like children, as a good thing. And then meanwhile with like Monica, she has fertility issues. And Chandler and Monica decide, okay, we'll try, a different option. So they really go in deep that there's adoption. Adoption is an option that we can try, since they can't get pregnant, you know, the natural way, they decide, yeah, let's try adoption. And I love how they handle that. I would say, another positive is that they tackle a lot of serious topics really well in this show. Um, and then of course back to meanwhile with like Rachel, like obviously she gets pregnant by Ross and she has to learn to deal with since she and Ross are not together again, she has to learn how to navigate to be a single mother. And I think they show that really well that like Rachel's like, even though she has help from Ross, Janice does help her think about it too, that like, um, there is always a possibility that if he does have a family, if he does meet another woman and start a new family, you kind of have to like learn to navigate to be a single mother. So I like how they tackle that where Rachel is like afraid, and that's a natural response, especially if you become a first-time mother, and I think that's what the show does pretty well. They just tackle so many serious topics very well. Like, sure, they have some humor in it, but it's balanced very well with like that. So yeah, I truly appreciate the show, has a lot of beautiful life lessons. If you actually watch the show as an adult, you kind of understand, the life lessons a lot better, if anything. So I truly appreciate the show for what it's done. And yeah, I highly recommend this show. So I give it like a 9 out of 10. Obviously it's not perfect because there are some plot holes, I guess with any other show. But I highly recommend this show. And if you want to know where to watch this, it is on HBO Max, um, and all that. So that's the end of my review. But don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on that bell notifications for upcoming live streams and video content. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.